lost it. She got too close so far, now I'm lost in trying to find me a better way. Listen, I was deep in the water somewhere, got the blue sky breeze and it don't seem fair. Only worry in the world is the tide gonna reach my chair. Sunrise, there's a fire in the sky, never been so happy, never felt so high, and I think I might have found me my own kind of paradise. Wrote a note, said be back in a minute. Bought a boat and a sail off in it. Don't think anybody's gonna miss me anyway. I'm on a permanent vacation. The ocean is my only medication. Wishing my condition ain't ever gonna go away. 'Cause now I'm deep in the water somewhere. Got the blue sky breeze blowing wet through my hair. Only worry in the world is the tide gonna reach my chair. Sunrise, there's a fire in the sky. Never been so happy, never felt so high. And I think I might have found me my own kind of paradise. This champagne shore washing over me. It's a sweet, sweet life, living by the salty sea. One day you'll be as lost as me. Change your geography. Maybe you might be. Deep in the water somewhere, got the blue sky breeze blowing wind through my hair. Only worry in the world is the tide gonna reach my chair. Sunrise, there's a fire in the sky. Never been so happy, never felt so high. And I think I might have found me my own kind of paradise. Come in the water now, find yourself a little slice. Grab a backpack and light, you never know until you try. When you lose yourself, you find a key to paradise.
Hey, Craig, your co-host.
Yep.
You have a co-host.
I am a co-host. I'm going to turn my video on right now. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Where's my co-host, Mr. Bass? You want to make me host? I'll just run the show from here.
Yeah, right.
All is good. All is good. Very cool. Sorry, I'm a minute late. I had to finish my chocolate protein shake with super greens, collagen, fiber, and collagen, fiber, super greens, chocolate protein, avocado, strawberries, and blueberry. Morning, Otis.
Hey, good morning.
Oh, my volume's way up. God, I think I zoomed 4.5 hours yesterday. I got off the phone at Zoom at 5. I said, guys, I'm zoomed out. I gotta go. Bye. Hope you guys are doing the same thing. So today is Master the Contract Friday. And pretty much every conversation I'm having with every agent I talk to is, holy shit, it's crazy out there. And it really, really is. So today we're going to talk about some of those types of things. But let me jump into my mailbag real quick because just some things are relevant that we're dealing with. And one that I want to talk about is, well, as everything today is pretty much going to surface around multiple offers. There is no right, there is no wrong. And I need you guys to understand that just because you write a full price offer doesn't mean it's going to get accepted. Right. So we had an agent who was dealing with what we consider to be a less than ethical agent in the market. We presented. Okay. So Mirror Bay is a nice community over here. And there were no listings in the entire community, not one for sale. Yesterday, 2 came on, or 2 days ago, 2 came on the market. And we have an agent who wrote an offer on one, full price, no contingencies, badass, right? And the listing agent said to our agent, sorry, the seller's not willing to accept this yet. They want to see what else comes in. Now, if you go to the letter of the law, if we write a full price offer, then we're due a commission because we met the terms of the MLS offer of obligation of compensation, right?
Mm-hmm.
Wrong. So I went to lawyers with this, and I wrote a nasty letter to the listing agent and said, hey, if you don't accept our offer, if you don't instruct your seller to accept our offer, we're going to ask you for a commission because we brought you a full price offer. And they wrote back and did some research and said, hey, our listing agreement is for us to enforce the seller, that if we choose to force them to accept an offer, that we're due a commission. And then if we're due a commission from your buyer, we'll pay you. And I took that to be real. And then I talked to our attorney about it and he agreed with me. So just because you write a full price offer does not mean you win a deal, right? We cannot, there's no Florida law that says a seller has to sell their house. It might be a Florida law, the seller might have to pay a commission, but he doesn't have to sell the house, or she, right? So you're never going to force that. And it's a shitty position to be in, but that's what you're dealing with today, right? Ray Monahan, there's no listings in Symphony Isles, none, nothing's for sale. 2 came on the market, literally. I talked to Ray yesterday in the office and he had 5 showings and is expecting 2 offers. And he put the price up here. It's not even on the screen, it's so high. And he knows it, but he strategized it. He did a certified pre-loved homes. He had the perfect marketing material in the house and it was spit polished and shined. And he even had the seller repaint the garage floor to make it beautiful, right? And it's insane out there. Otis, are you here? You're talking to as many or more agents than I'm talking to.
Yeah.
What's the frustration level like?
It's pretty high because what I feel, and when we go over these 10 steps, we're going to touch on almost all the points that I see that are sometimes being overlooked and not setting the expectations with the buyers properly. Because at the end of the day, it's one of the most competitive markets that has been in 15 years for a buyer to buy a home. And now it's our job to interpret the market. If we don't interpret it properly for them, then their expectations are going to be skewed in the wrong direction. And it's changed since 15 years ago as well. So you got to be qualified first and foremost, and you got to be ready to make a move quickly. If you like it, you got to move very fast because that house won't be there very long at the end of the day. And that's where people who are dragging their feet, they're just going to be frustrated.
It's hard. Karma just wrote in, no listings currently in Mayaca under 700,000.
Amazing.
And I would argue that there's no listings worth more than 700,000 in Mayaca. So,
yeah.
So there's no listings, guys. I mean, there's nothing. So if you're going to spend your time doing anything, it should be what? Finding listings.
Mm.
I mean, a strategic path. And it's a hard double-edged sword because if you find somebody who wants to sell, what do they have to do?
They have to find a house to live.
Yeah, or rent. And there's no houses for rent either.
That's right.
Or they got to move, and they can move to Boise, Idaho, which is even more expensive than Tampa. I mean, it's a systemic problem that you have to recognize. A frame home, 2-bedroom, 1-bath for $720. Hey, this is a time to get rich. I could probably sell my house for over $1 million right now. And but where would I go? Rent for a while. No, while we're at it out, we'll see what happens. Okay, so that was one of the things I want to talk about. There are no rights, so don't get caught up with, I made a full price offer, I'm due a commission, because you're not. It's up to the listing broker to decide if they want to pursue the seller to enforce the terms of their listing agreement, not the buyer's agent. So you have no rights on that. So, not this one. Let's look at my grab bag just for a couple more things before we get to the 10. Oh, I put a new clause. Now, guys, I'm going to bounce back and forth between my screen and this one, but we put a new clause in .loop that basically says, and this is for your benefit, we will pay X dollars over appraised value. Right? So what we want you to do is we want to stack your offers to be better than everybody else's. And as we're watching the market, we're seeing things come in that are very good, and we're going to impart those on you. So in addition to an escalation clause that you'll beat the best offer by X amount of dollars, many cases we're going to run this thing up above appraised value. And a good listing agent, if you're dealing with a good listing agent, is going to call that out to the seller and say, yeah, their offer is really great, but it's probably not going to appraise. So by the time the appraisal comes, they're going to beat you back down on the price again. So if a good listing agent that you're dealing with recognizes that, you overcome that by putting in this appraisal clause that we put in .loop that says, my buyer will pay up to $5, $10, $15, $20,000 above the appraised value, which is basically 80% of that amount. They're going to have to pay out of pocket if they're going to win. Correct, Nancy. All right, so that's one. So that's it. So those are in .loop now. If you want me to show them to you, raise your hand and I'll do that. Here's one. Sorry. We have a listing pending on Interbay. Buyer's agent called today saying they only purchased because they thought it was in an X flood zone. We learned something here. This flood zone was labeled as X and what's the other one?
AE.
AE. It was zoned XAE. So part of the parcel was X and part of the parcel was AE. So, so what does that mean? It means nothing. It means nothing until you call it. The lender says, this is XAE, we want flood insurance. What does the lender have?
They got the power to write the loan.
They got the gold.
Yeah.
The gold makes the rules. The lender says, it's XAE, we want flood insurance. So the buyer's getting all pissy about it. So what do? We go determine the facts. So what are the facts?
You gotta look at the property line and where the slope is. If the home is indeed in a flood zone, you're gonna have to get it. If it's just part of the property, you may have a little bit of an argument there, but you better make your case and have a really easy, good case for the underwriter to follow.
Well, what we did is we went to the flood insurance agent and found out what flood insurance is going to cost. It's less than $400 a year.
Oh yeah, take it.
So I said, is it really worth fighting over? See if the buyer wants to buy it. And if the buyer doesn't want to buy it, it's a duplex. It's half of a duplex. Then put it back on the market. We'll sell it to somebody else. Yeah. So guys, you're working as a team. John just said it. Check with the insurance agent. Exactly. So I checked with my insurance agent, and within 8 minutes, she had me a flood quote for $400. If the buyer doesn't want it for $400 a year, then screw him. Move on. We'll sell it to somebody else. But the buyer doesn't have any power. It's really kind of sad. It really is. But it is what it is. Regina. No, I don't want to cover that one yet. I'm going to cover this one real quick, guys, and I'm going to share my screen for it. So I'm just afraid for you guys a lot that you're going to screw up and get caught and be pissed, and then you're going to get disappointed. So this is a commission agreement. Otis, I'm sure you've had this conversation a lot. You find a seller who's thinking of selling. Once the word hits the street that that seller is thinking of selling, you're screwed.
Yeah.
period. The neighbor is going to know about it and tell a friend who's going to contact the seller, and it's done. That's how tight the market is right now. So what I want you to do when you find a seller who is thinking about selling, you give them a commission agreement, and it says John Smith agrees that Century 21 may show and will use diligent effort to sell the property located at 123 Any Street to, you can leave the prospect name blank. In the event the property is sold, we will get a commission of blank percent of the property. Seller will pay the broker, boom, 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 seller signs it. Now you have a commission agreement, right? So if you're knocking on doors, you're a diligent agent, you've got a buyer who really wants to live in Sasquatch Avenue, and you go door knocking on Sasquatch Avenue, and you find a seller who suggests, I'm thinking about selling my house, have them sign this. It's not a commission, it's not a listing agreement. You have no right to market it. It simply says, if I sell your house, you'll pay me, right? I need you to do this, because once you leak word that that seller is thinking of selling, another agent's going to hear about it. Somebody else is going to hear about it. They're going to go in and they're going to get an agreement. They're going to sell it, and you're going to be out of luck. So go to .loop, type in commission in the search of all documents, and you'll find a commission agreement. Okay. Otis, do you agree?
I totally agree. I think that protecting yourself is one of the most important things in today's market because of the fact that it's so competitive. And everyone has the best of intentions, but if it's not in writing, it's not enforceable.
My mom has a client in my neighborhood who's thinking of selling. And it's been, I met with my mom 3 weeks ago, and we started to do the certified pre-loved home thing. And I recognized that her seawall was shot and her dock is near the end of its useful life. And I want to put her on the market. I want to maximize her value. So I set out to have my dock guy look at the seawall and the dock and all this other stuff. In the meantime, word's getting out on the street, probably because she walks her dog and she talks to people. She's probably saying, I'm thinking about selling now. And if we don't act fast on that, Mom, if you're listening, we need to act fast on that now. I think we talked about this last night. That's how bad it is right now. Word's going to get out and you're going to get beaten. So you've got to pay attention. Last thing in my grab bag that I want to talk about right now before we get to our 10 steps is, God, I just had it in my mind and I lost it. I think I'm getting old. It's here. Nah, it'll pop up later. Chat. What about the buyer? When should I get him to sign the buyer agreement? Okay. That's a very important thing right now. Typically, we don't use buyer broker agreements. It's not customary in this market, although there are other markets that it's standard.
Right.
You need a buyer, you have an agency discussion, you have them sign a buyer broker agreement where the buyer says, if I buy, you're going to get a commission of X. And if the co-broker is only offering 1% and your buyer broker agreement says you get 3%, then the buyer comes up with the other 2. I mean, that's totally fair. Look at my face. The sun is just coming through the window and blinding my thing. So the question was, what about the buyer? When should I get him to? Okay, so I've really never stressed the fact of signing a buyer broker agreement. This might be a really good time to get into it.
Yeah.
Look, buyer, I'm going to bust my butt to find you something. And I need a commitment from you that if I find you something, you're going to do it. So, well, handshake agreement is good, John, but it has no teeth to it. The buyer broker agreement is, if I find you a house, you're going to guarantee me a commission, which I think, Otis, remind me, let's do a class on buyer broker agreements.
Yeah, I agree, because at the end of the day, you got to protect yourself with the buyers too. The market's so competitive, and the buyers, if the expectations aren't set properly, they're not going to be as loyal, especially with internet leads. They're going to move along. And more importantly, having knowledge of the builders and signing up with your buyer and the builders, even on the phone, because they're allowing you to do everything on the phone nowadays because of COVID. just get it out there that you got this buyer, you're selling that community. And so if they go off the reservation, which they probably will, you're protected.
All right, this is a whole new skill set we're talking about because we've never really trained it. Jeff, if you're listening, we got to put this on the agenda. Let me see. Here you are. Okay, because I've had a lot of agents say to me, especially experienced agents, I'm not working buyers anymore. There's no inventory. I've got to write, 8 offers to get it done. I'm just going to focus on my listings, which is their prerogative, which I agree with, actually wholeheartedly. But if I get a buyer listed, which is basically what a buyer broker is, that's as good as a listing agreement, because if they buy something, they're going to work through you, period. And you can limit them to a county, to a price range, to whatever you want. So I think we need to do some classes on buyer broker agreements. So I'll add that to the mix. Okay. Yes, please. There are brokers offering as little as one. I saw that the other day, Lauren. Brokers offering as little as 1%, and now Ryan Holmes is down to $37.50 flat fee, and we thought Lennar was bad, right? So that's, if you want to work with me, buyer, now you have to demonstrate some value to a buyer to get them to do this, but you guys can do that. You demonstrate value to a buyer, and they will sign a contract to make sure you get 3%. And if they don't do it, then it's next. I'm not going to run around for a $3,750 flat fee. Right, I'm very surprised Ryan Holmes is doing that. It's just very interesting. I'm having lunch next week with a very good builder friend of mine to find out what his opinions are. So I'll share that as we get on. Okay, Otis, do you have the article open? Do you want to open it or just want to talk point by point?
Yeah. I don't have it open. I have it on my phone ready to go. My notes are right here. So
okay, well, you open and we'll take it from there.
All right, hang on. All right, so when we talk about the steps for 10 ways to win a bidding war as a buying agent, step number one, in my opinion, step number one is the catalyst of how well your relationship with the buyer is going to be, and that's to mentally prepare the customer. So if we interpret the market, which is our job, and let them know, hey, Mr. Buyer, it's an incredibly competitive market. And so you've got to be ready, because if you're not bringing your best to every offer that you like on a home, you're probably not going to win, because other people have already lost a few deals and they've learned the hard way. So they're going to go after it hard. One of the things here that I'm seeing is if there's bidding wars and homes are selling for more than the market price, more than the listing price, then you've got to mentally prepare that if you really like the house, you got to go and compete. Now, a couple of things that I personally used to do is, depending on, a lot of times you'll have a buyer that if they want it at this price, they'll take it. Only if it's at this price. That means they really don't want it that much. They want it, but they don't mind losing it. But if they really like it, if they love it, then you got to go in ready to compete and win, which means you got to have good terms, and you have to be ready to pay a little bit above market value in today's market. And if they're not mentally prepared to do that, then you're going to be setting yourself up and setting them up for one loss after another, after another, after another. And then they're going to get frustrated with you, and they're going to go to someone else because they don't think you're doing the right job. I see it all the time. And so one of the things that I have always said is, if you're not sure about it, we'll put in the offer. But if it doesn't hit, that's, you just have to understand where you stand as far as that offer, your price, and the competition. And if you want to beat the rest of the competition, you go in strong and you go in high. And then most of the time the appraisal will protect you. In this case, the appraisal may not even protect you, because other people are making concessions on their offer that they'll pay X amount above or X amount below the appraised value, or above the appraised value, to make sure that they get that offer. And that's why we just put that caveat in there, that addendum in there, because we know now we can't even gamble on the appraisal. We got to make sure we lock it down, because the appraisal probably won't come in, and we've got to let them know we're going to pay X amount above it, because that's how much we want the house. And so the appraisal will generally always protect you. And so
you got to lay the groundwork up front. So let's talk about this.
Yeah.
Tight inventory, low interest rates,
Mm-hmm.
migration, and an increase in multi-generational households have all fueled the fierce sellers markets that are setting off the bidding wars coast to coast.
Mhm.
Guys, this is coast. I'm talking to my broker friends across the country. It's everywhere. Everywhere.
Mhm.
Even Californians. I was talking to a broker in California, and they said, they want to get out of the cities, but the suburbs are booming. So there's an equal and opposite force on everything. So tight inventory is nationwide. Low interest rates are nationwide. Migration, increase in multi-generational household. What does that mean? You got kids moving back in with parents. So they want bigger houses. The pandemic has triggered a restructuring of U.S. households with families downsizing and upsizing. Let's all move back in together. We'll get a big house. Let's all separate and get a smaller house. Moving between and out of state. We're feeling it more than anybody. Tampa's the 4th hottest housing market in the country.
Yeah.
I mean, there's 50 states in the union. We're the 4th market in 50 states where people are wanting to come to. Dad and I did a call with a guy yesterday who's trying to redevelop Tropicana Field. And they want to build a 50-story building. 2 50-story towers with 1 unit per floor at $1,000 a square foot.
Wow.
So a 7,000 square foot condo for $7 million, 50 stories in the air, close to the coast of St. Pete. You're going to see the world from 50 stories up.
Yeah.
But $1,000 a square foot, is that insane?
Yes.
No, it's not, because you've got buildings downtown St. Pete selling for $1,000 a foot.
Right.
But how many people can you find? Well, it depends. If they're coming from Boise, Idaho, or California and New York, where real estate is super expensive, $1,000 a foot is cheap.
Oh yeah.
We got to take our mind out of where it is and put it where it is going.
And their
Right?
perspective is different than ours. The value is there for them.
Well, I told you my CFO guy had a customer with a $27 million condo in New York who wanted out. He dumped it for $19 million. So he took a $8 million loss. But he came to St. Pete and bought a $4 million condo on the Gulf, which was nicer than his condo in New York.
Mm-hmm.
And now he's got an extra $15 million in his pocket. He could have spent $7 million on a condo too.
Mm-hmm.
And then, God, I'm not kidding. At some point, international travel is going to open up.
Yeah.
And when the South Americans and the Europeans get to come to Florida, just forget it. We need more houses now. So anyway, I just want to add that little thing in. So step 1 was mentally prepare the customer. And I know it's going to be hard for you guys to do this, but you have to tell them what's going on.
Craig, and even new construction is overwhelmed. Taylor Morrison has a spot, Stansel Park up in Odessa. Their wait list is over 100 people just to get a lot. And that's incredible. I mean, people are saying, hey, well, we'll pay double just for that particular lot. And so what they're doing is they've created this wait list, and they're kind of sitting back and they're letting the frenzy start to take place with people who are really serious about getting a lot in there. And so now they're changing. You have buyers changing terms where they're saying, all right, we'll go all cash and above lot price just to get that lot. And that's in Stansel Park. So even the builders see what's going on, and they're allowing the frenzy to take place. I've got the 10 ways to win the bidding war up. You want me to share it on my screen?
I think they'd rather look at us, but Lauren said, I have a home closing next week. The appraisal came in $10,000 less than the offer price, and the buyers were okay with it since I prepped them and they saw the value in this property. Appraisals are all over the place right now.
Mm-hmm.
I bought a house in Riverview 2 weeks ago, beginning of February, and I just got it appraised because I'm refinancing it. And it appraised for $11,000 more than I paid for it.
Wow.
14 days after I bought it. That's insane. And there's no houses for sale in Riverview either. Appraisals are, you just have to be so sharp right now.
Well, and as a listing agent, you have to be able to defend the appraisal as well. And that's its own topic and its own class. But defending the appraisal is something that sets a listing agent apart from the rest of the competition.
Actually, if you guys get a chance, go back to last Wednesday's class when Chris Reed did the class on appraisals.
Mhm.
He did an amazing job explaining the appraisal and the notes and the comments. It was very, very good. So go back to last Wednesday's class and you'll see it. All right, go to step 2. If in granting winning a bidding war, what is step 2?
Arrange to meet agent in person. And so if you can get in front of the sales agent in person, step 2 is basically allowing you to read their body language and make it humanize the offer overall. And what it says here, Miami-based Vera realtor broker Nick Polyshukin, whose agency hired 20 recruits in 2020 alone, coaches his agents to schedule an in-person showing, exchanging cards, and follow up the same day. And so for them, if emails go unresponded, most of the time that means the listing agent has already 3 offers in their inbox. So he's saying go to their office, grab coffee, and give them an offer in person. And at the end of the day, if that's what it takes, you got to get in front of them. At least you've humanized it.
Take the gloves off, guys. It's all about building rapport.
I agree.
And if you talk about the advice we're giving now, which is, I'm going to have this listing active on the MLS on Wednesday. I'm going to have instructions that if there's no showings allowed Thursdays or Fridays, and there'll be an open house on Saturday from 11 to 3. Right? What's going to happen on Saturday between 11 and 3?
Frenzy.
Total friggin' frenzy. Then you get offers, and you also put in the MLS agent remarks that seller expects multiple offers and will not reply to anybody till Monday at 5. Right? It's setting that expectation. But you, as the buyer's agent, if you can create rapport with the listing agent, and I'm going to tell you again, get your loan officer involved in this process.
Well, and think about it, as a listing agent, you want to make sure that you put it under a contract that's going to be sticky, that's not going to be canceled. It's not going to go back on the market. You want this contract to go from cradle to grave. You want to finish it out on the first contract. And so if you're having that conversation with the buyer's agent and you have that feeling of security, that means something, that they're not going to come in and beat the hell out of you after they do the inspection.
Yeah, those days are over right now.
Step 3.
Yep.
Ask targeted questions. And this is to win a bid on a hot property. It's saying that buying agents must ask the right questions. It's not always about price, but also sometimes it's about the condition of the home. Let's say it's not in the best condition. It's a little bit of a fixer-upper, but it's a fantastic buy, and it's the only thing out there. Ask the listing agent targeted questions such as, what are the sellers looking for in terms of a closing date? Is there negotiation room for repairs? How long has the seller lived in the house? How many offers have been received to date? I think the last one is really important. How many offers have been received to date? And then, of course, finding out the motivation of the seller. If the seller is very motivated and you say, all right, so we're offering an as-is contract, we'll take it as is, barring no major defects in the house, that's a security blanket for that listing agent if they know that there's something wrong with the house. Have that conversation ahead of time, prep the battlefield, and that way you have the terms of your contract sliding in there the way they want to see it.
God, it sounds so silly to be having this conversation, but I've never seen inventory this tight, ever.
I agree. Number 4 is sign the letter. This actually is, in my opinion, it's really an undervalued approach, because there are sellers out there that they still attach the emotion to the house, even though we are very objective and we let them know, hey, once you sell it, once you put it on the market, that's a product on the market.
You want to get your heartstring. That's what I'm doing. I'm picking my heartstring right now.
Yeah. And so, I've seen letters win bidding wars, and the home wasn't sold for the highest and best offer. It was sold to the one that says they're going to raise their family in this house. Letters work. Nancy's right. Nancy just piped in. Letters work. They sure do.
My daughter Jessica bought her house and wrote a letter to the seller about why she and Zach wanted to live there. And I cried when I read it. I mean, it was that powerful, and it worked, and they won. And this is years ago. This is not like in this market, but there were still multiple offers coming in, but not inventory as tight as it is right now.
Mm-hmm.
I had tears in my eyes reading her letter. It worked. And I'll tell you, what would Puma say about that?
Hey, humanize it.
He would say,
Humanize it.
do a
Connect
video,
it.
do a
Yeah.
video of the buyers and deliver that to the listing agent and let the listing agent share that with the seller. You know, we had another situation come up that just came to mind. We have an agent who has an offer on a property. It's been extended over and over again. But one of our other agents went directly to the seller and said, hey, and it's not our listing. Hey, seller, I see your house has been pending for a long time. If there's problems, let me know. I've got a buyer who's interested in your house. Do you see any problems with that?
Mm. You went directly to the seller and the seller's represented?
Yeah, it's called a code of ethics violation, like across the board. No. As a buyer's agent, you do not contact a seller that's represented by another brokerage, period.
Correct.
You go to the listing agent and say, hey, I see your house has been pending for a while. If you're having trouble, I've got an interested buyer. Would you like a backup? You don't go to the seller prospect directly. No, 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 no. Lower inflation, yes, it works for me 99% of the time. 1% is if it's an investor.
Yeah. And you know, we just had one recently that it was a teardown in South Tampa, and the bid that won was the one that said they weren't going to tear the home down, that they were going to just renovate it and make it theirs and live in it the way it was. And the people who sold it, they were still attached to the home to the point that they didn't want to see it being torn down. And so that's why they chose that particular offer.
Okay, let's have this ethical discussion here now. John writes, my buyer, unknown to me, went to the seller. Right? We can't control that. And so this is ethics. No, they're not supposed to do that. But you can't do it. But they can do it. So you can walk the fine line there.
Mm-hmm.
Look, buyer, if you really want to know, if you think the listing agent's being shady or shy, you can't go to the seller, period. Code of ethics, no, you can't do it.
Right.
Your buyer can, and you can't, if your buyer says they're going to, you can't do anything about it.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it works. So I'm not going to say any more than that, but all I can tell you is you can't do it.
No.
Jan, buyers and I found the perfect house and it was priced perfectly. We saw it the first day on MLS, so we knew there'd be a million offers. We stayed at the office to write a contract at slightly above list, and I went home, wrote a loving letter to the owners, created letterhead, and sent it off with the offer. Right away, it was accepted. That's, guys, I know it sounds hokey. It really does. But this is actually what we're reading off of is an article that Zillow put out that said how to win a multiple offer, that they're telling consumers, this is it, right?
This is what all the top buying agents around the nation are doing, and Zillow has collected that information and put it together for us.
Send the letter or send a video, even better.
Yeah.
Look, here's my dog. I want to play in your backyard. And you remember Jeff and Next Level University, you know, and then Sally brought her piggy bank out and said, Mommy, you can have my money. I really want this house. And she shook her piggy bank and all the dollars fell out. You know, it's just that heart tugging story makes a difference. So consider doing that at this stage of the game.
All right, number 5, drop contingencies.
Mm-hmm.
So foregoing conditions may not always be feasible, popular, in the best interest of the buyers, but removing any barriers to a close can heavily influence the seller's decision over the ultimately wins the offer. I still need to finish my coffee. This goes into what Jeff says all the time. Have it pre-approved, have it locked in, drop that financing contingency, drop the appraisal contingency. Yes, it is a risk, but you know, if you really want it, drop those contingencies, and it's hard to pass that up because the seller knows that you're locked in.
Well, let's talk about this too. Otis, this is real element of PQRS. Tony and I were talking yesterday. his buyer really wants this house and is willing to take a no inspection. And Tony wants to protect himself because it's a stupid idea to buy a house without an inspection, period. You hear that? It's a stupid idea to buy a house without an inspection. This buyer is willing to waive the inspection contingency just to make his offer look more attractive. So Tony's like, how do I protect myself? So what we decided was on the contingency release form, he's going to write in that against broker's advice, buyer is buyer has chosen to waive his inspection rights. And it turns out the seller is an agent, and the seller has written a very detailed seller's disclosure statement, which gave the buyer some concern, some confidence. So I'm going to tell you, everything we do makes a difference.
I agree.
Right? If you're going to have a seller's disclosure statement and not put comments on it, I mean, I just sold a lot that we owned in Owl Fire Preserve, beautiful piece of property. Nobody's had any interest in it in the 15 years I've owned the damn thing. And now I put it on the market and it's sold. And one of the questions on the seller's disclosure statement was, is it public water and sewer? And I didn't know the answer to that question. So I called the HOA president, and it turns out it is public water and sewer. But he also told me that the lift station is at the front of the community, and most people have to put a macerator pump in the front yard to chew up the fecal matter and push it through the system to the lift station, which I've never heard of before. Yeah. So I didn't know that, but I found that out. So I put it on the seller's disclosure statement, which the buyer now is going to say, holy shit, this seller is really trying to educate me on what's going on in the community.
Right.
I'm also going to invite that buyer to the HOA meeting. We have an HOA meeting once a year, and I'm on the board. And it's a really nice community. These are $1 million houses. And one of the residents is a caterer. And so we have our HOA meetings at their house, and she caters this elaborate affair. And it's really a lot of fun. I mean, I've been doing it for years. Once a year we get together, and the HOA is 26 homes. I mean, it's like nothing. And there's only like 8 houses in the whole subdivision. The rest are vacant lots. And, but just my point is, the seller's disclosure is a marketing tool.
Mm-hmm.
The clearer you are on it shows intent to be clear. You don't want to show intent to be fuzzy when you're with a buyer who's going to basically take their clothes off and do whatever you ask them to do, right? They'll feel more comfortable if you're honest with them. So
it minimizes liability.
100% it does. So there's two sides. You could be the I'm a seller, I'm ruler of the world, screw everybody. Or you could be, I'm a seller, I recognize my power, but I'm going to use it for good, and I'm going to make you feel really comfortable with your purchase, so you pay me even more than it's worth.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You can get more flies with honey than you do with vinegar, right?
Yeah. So number 6, it says offer.
Let me finish this off because Ken just put it. Have a buyer. Yes. So we had a contingency release form where we had the buyer acknowledge that against broker's advice, buyer is buying this house without an inspection, and that was it. He acknowledged it. So in the event something happened after closing, and they want to come back and say, "Why didn't you make me get an inspection?" We say, "Look, dude, I told you get an inspection. Yeah. See, you signed it right here." So it's called CYA.
I had that happen one time for me, and I called the MLS hotline and let them know, hey, my buyer does not want an inspection. How do I cover myself on that? And they said, just make sure there's something documented in writing, whatever the case may be. Even if it's an email and you send it over and they reject it, make sure you cover your butt on that, because at the end of the day, we want to minimize liability, but we also need to protect ourselves.
Yeah, my point is as a seller, you can make a buyer feel so comfortable with your disclosure and if you inspect it yourself, for example. Mm-hmm. Here's the inspection I did, buyer. I'd feel more comfortable buying that house because the seller had it inspected and showed me it. I'd be more willing to waive that inspection, right? Than taking a pig in a poke. So, all right, what's number 6 or 7? Where are we at?
Offer buyer's highest bid up front. And I like this because in the little tidbit of this article, it says when prepping a client for a purchase offer, La Rosa, the agent, advises buying agents to always ask their client, at what price are you willing to lose it for? If they'd be willing to lose an $850,000 listing at $890,000, then offer $892. In a hot bidding war, there's only one chance. And so go in highest and best from the beginning. But I like that question because at the end of the day, it goes back to what's their mindset? How bad do they really want the home? And go in and be competitive from the very beginning, not try to get in the bidding war there. And then you're having it being driven up because you're competing like an auction style. Go in high and try to beat everyone at the front.
Well, this question kind of overrides the next one, which is get an escalation clause.
Yeah, exactly.
Your escalation clause covers this, and pretty much, I would say you shouldn't be putting an offer in without an escalation clause in it right now.
Not in today's world.
Right. I will beat your best offer by making significant $5,000, $10,000 bucks.
Mm-hmm.
I'll beat your best offer by $5,000, not to exceed 890,000.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So maybe it's on market for 850, and your buyer says all good 890. I can't believe we're having this conversation, but we're having this conversation.
It's basics 101.
It's relevant.
Mm-hmm. All right. Number 7, raise the deposit. This one was when they interviewed quick.
Yeah.
I
actually, did they do that?
Yeah. So it says Beggins in Tampa encourages his buying agents to ask larger deposits to clients as means of demonstrating greater interest in sellers. I think I hear that. But if someone puts down $1,000 versus $10,000, who looks more serious? Those with FHA and VA loans with low down payments are at a disadvantage in this market because they're losing the cash buyers, and those with large deposits, our market are to those with large deposits, and markets uses a lot of as-is contracts, meaning that they can cancel for any reason. So if we try to secure a big deposit after inspection to signify that the buyer is intending to move forward, remember, just because a seller has an offer doesn't mean it's sold. And that's says Beggins.
That's so funny because I didn't read this whole article. I just read the headlines when you and I talked yesterday. And I do a lot of interviews with Zillow, and Angelique and I did an interview with Loop yesterday. And they publish these things, and there it is. I was going to say, when you said raise the deposits, that's exactly what I recommend. And there it is.
Yeah. That sounds so familiar.
Good. So we're in the news. Fun.
Someone plagiarized. Oh, wait a minute. That's you. That's you and your words.
Who took my idea?
So let's talk about that for a second. That's true. If I have, as a listing agent, if I've got 4 offers and they're all really close, but one offer has a $10,000 deposit, it shows that they are willing to put a lot of skin in the game and that they're ready to go. $1,000 deposit in an escrow dispute, nobody gets that because title's holding it. It goes into an interpleader. That's $700, $800 right off the bat just to get into the court system and for the attorney to file the paperwork. And so now you got an escrow dispute over $200, right? That's not very confident for a seller, and there's not a lot of skin on the game. Now, $5,000, $10,000, now there's something to dispute if there is an escrow dispute, and the buyer does have skin on the game in that regard. Because after, let's say it's $10,000, well, you would you would fight for about $9,000 and change. That's a lot of money versus $250, which doesn't mean anything, and anyone can walk away from that. There's no foul, no harm.
And I'll go one step further than that. Put an additional deposit up after your short inspection period.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because the contract is clear. Deposits paid and agreed to be paid are forfeited in the event of breach. So if I write a contract with $5,000 initial deposit and a $20,000 additional deposit, that's a $25,000 deposit. Mm-hmm. If I fail to cancel during inspections and I cancel, I lost $25,000.
Yeah.
Right. The broker gets half of that, which is more than their commission. So they never get more than their commission, but the seller gets the rest. If you sign the listing agreement. Karma said something really, really important. And this is probably the best advice of the day. She said, I do full price with escalation so they never overpay. Right. So if you're at your final price on your escalation is more important than your initial offer price.
Right.
Right. So Otis, you're the listing agent. You got 5 offers on the house. One is at it's a 275 house. You got 4 offers at 275. One's at 290, and one of the 275s has an escalation clause not to exceed 300, which is better for the seller.
The one that takes it all the way up, as far up as you can
So
go.
the escalation clause taking it up to 300 is better than the 290. Because
And then
the
we
290, if the escalation says I'll pay 5,000 over your best offer not to exceed 300, your best offer is 290. My offer comes in at 295. I win.
That's right.
Right. You have to understand the workings of that.
And that leads us right next to number 8, draft an escalation clause.
Right.
So the escalation clause is threaded. I don't know if everyone's noticed this, but we've threaded the escalation clause into like 4 steps so far. That's how important that escalation clause is. And this also quotes you on this one, Craig, is Beggins also finds an escalation clause that can help procure a winning bid. His agency will often include such a clause that states the buyer will beat any offer by 1% up to a certain capped amount. Now, we both know that's a variable there. And so the lower the price, you got to look at the numbers itself. The higher the price of the home, 1% can mean a lot. And then it goes into 5,000s and so forth, 10,000s and so forth. But you go on to say, consider the example, and you just use it, the 275 going into 290, and then the 295 being the highest bid winner. And so, and that's why we put it into our loop 9 months ago, because we were already using escalation clauses to be competitive with our bids.
Cool.
And I have to say, it was always there. We just modified it a little bit to be more competitive. That's all.
Right.
Before it was at $500 increments. We made it to where you can put whatever you need to put in there to make it work.
Yep.
And then number 9, create a loop. Loop users find creating a loop before a showing gives them a jump start on making offers. And so this is David Dorman, professional group in O'Keefe, Florida. And he says they will always begin the buyer broker introduction with a loop containing the broker relationship disclosure form. And he says, with all the documents and forms built in the loop's pre-populated templates, Loop makes it easy to fire off an offer within minutes. So speed is what he's saying. Speed is key, which I agree. Speed to lead is something we always talk about, right? Well, this is speed to offer. And he's quoted as saying, I had an agent who, when we first rolled out Loop, completed the contract in the bank parking lot while the client received her pre-approval in the bank parking lot, right? The agent had the client sign everything on her cell phone, took a picture of the pre-approval letter, and sent everything over to the listing agent on the spot. So this reminds me of Jessica Beggins' story, where she was in the driveway on her phone, knocked out the offer right there. And when you think about it, I remember when I got into
while the buyers were inside the house looking at it, she's drafting the offer
right now.
In person signed on her phone with their finger, and she had it in the listing agent's hand before they left the driveway.
Craig, do you remember when we used to drive around with blank contracts and we had to fill out the
sign
contract
them on the hood.
on the hood right there? Right. I know it sounds archaic in today's world, but that's basically what they're doing. They are prepared. They're professional realtors. They're prepared either with a blank contract, but in this case, it's technology and .loop. But at the end of the day, that's speed, and you can hit it while the seller is still ready to make a move, and you can beat the offers before they can collect the rest of the offers at the end of the night.
Yep. Very important.
And so that was the last one. These are all great tidbits of information. Oh my gosh. And so next one, step 10, text contracts from the app. Texting the offer from .loop mobile app helps bypass the clutter of bids rushing into a listing agent's email inbox while helping to ensure faster response times from customers. That's genius, because you're using a different path. It's still technology, but instead of having it plugged in with all these other offers in her email, people check their text message more often than their email. And so the text message is more instant gratification and more instant communication. And so by sending it as a text versus an email, it does give you a speed advantage. And I say just go one step farther and make sure you do it. If you send it via text, send it via email as well. It's one step farther and you're getting 2 pass to make sure that they get it at a time.
Yeah, you send me a text, I'll be pissed. Will Otis list be sent to us? Yeah, we could forward that. It's a .loop email.
Yeah.
Which actually, .loop sent it to my personal email, which was weird because, they send me messages to my house about my house to my personal email, but they sent me that list to my personal email, which is weird. But
well, and then on this very same article, we'll send underneath it, it says 5 ways to better manage a bidding war as a listing agent. And so you get a little bit of bonus on there because it's pretty cool. It's Stage for Success, pre-certify the home. Number 2. Have you ever heard that before, Craig? Pre-certify the home?
No, that's a good idea. We should probably talk about that one day.
Yeah, right.
Oh, look at this. Look at it. Oh, wait, I don't want to share my screen. This is for fun. This is like an ego gratification thing for me.
Well, and then number 3, and this is crazy here, right?
Well, don't get off this. Beggins Enterprises Tampa says certified pre-loved home program.
You know that guy?
I had no idea. I was all over this article. That's so cool. Well, so number 1 was stage for success, make the house look good, make the customer feel good. They'll make a higher offer. Pre-certify, take away the guilt and the fear. I don't know if I told you guys, but I've mentioned that I've been working on this big listing and I was competing with like major brokers to get it. Well, I won. I got the listing. Congrats. It's going to be, $15-20 million. And I am going through the process now. They're pressuring me to market. No, we're not ready to market yet. I'm going to find out every friggin' objection a buyer is going to have, and I'm going to have an answer for that for them. But I'm not going to work on it until you hire me. So I've got 2 signed listing agreements for 2 large parcels. It's about 15 acres. It's 5,700 contiguous linear foot water frontage. 5,700 linear feet for whatever the hell you want. And I'm personally pushing for a multi-million-dollar estate. But anyway, I'm taking my own advice. I'm not going to market this thing until I know almost every objection I'm going to have. Right? It's
smart.
The seawall is 50 years old. Tell me what's wrong with a 50-year-old seawall.
It needs love.
It needs love.
Probably only 8 feet.
Right. So what am I going to do? I'm going to have an estimate from a seawall guy of what it's going to cost to put a new seawall on this property.
Smart.
Right. Why wouldn't I do that?
Absolutely.
Because the buyer's going to have to do it anyway. I don't want them to put a contingency in subject to me verifying what a seawall is going to cost. No, I'll tell you what a seawall is going to cost. Sign the friggin' contract.
Smart.
Right. That's my answer. So there you go. Beggins Enterprises in Tampa finds certified pre-loved homes program helps qualify sellers. All right. Number 3.
All right. Hey, number 3, you may recognize this guy also. I tell my agents to quit accepting offers on the first day, says Beggins. If, for instance, a listing hits the MLS on Thursday, the agent may hold all offers until the following Monday to give enough time to compare all factors, price contingencies, loan terms, down payment, before making their ultimate choice. Now, here's another thing that we've been discussing. It's not in this article, but put the home on the market on Wednesday, have an open house on Saturday. You're withholding all offers and all showings until the open house, and then you'll collect all the offers, and then you're going to make a decision on Sunday night.
Yeah, and also don't allow showings on Thursday or Friday.
That's correct, yeah.
Right.
And that way you drum up the excitement, you get it ready, but it also gives that extra buyer that may not have seen it on Wednesday or Thursday, it gives them Friday and Saturday to see it. And now you can really create the frenzy and drive up the price.
I really had no idea that I was all over this article like that. That's funny.
All right, number 4. Yeah, they got quite a few. This guy, Craig Beggins, is all over this thing. Huh? So organize and streamline offers with Easy Offer. So Easy Offer feature is in .loop. It offers a convenient way for listing agents to share a folder and its documents in Loop via a public link. The agent can promote the listing. And again, we've gone forward with the extra 5 for a listing agent, right? The agent can promote the listing by placing the link in an email or on social media and share the information on any documents with buying agents and prospects. Now, clients and agents can easily submit an offer using the link, with each receiving its own folder within the Loop. The Loop automatically adds the agents to the Loop, and while the listing agent maintains complete control over that, what information the buyer agent sees. So it's technology that's moving forward where you can also get that paperwork out there, and it doesn't have to be attached to the MLS. And so that buyer's agent that's trying to create the offer on their phone in the parking lot, this makes it easy for them to connect.
Huh. I don't know much about that. I can have Angelique figure that out though. The easy offer feature within .loop.
Yeah. And then we have the last one, control the narrative. So in a bidding war, listing agents hold the power and needs to guide the situation, particularly when multiple bids are at play. So La Rosa recommends listing agents to find any timelines and set the parameters for how the transaction will be conducted. So that's something we just talked about, right?
Yep.
If we put the home
My
on,
seller would like to close by March 18th
there you
to
go.
make it convenient for them to move to Denver or wherever the hell they're going.
That's
You
it.
can set that, and it's not just price, guys. There's 600 lines in the contract over, and price is one. There's a whole bunch of other things. You know, little things we're talking about now is have the buyer pick title.
Yeah.
And pay for title.
Let's think about that. If you're the buyer's agent and you pick title, you're going to prep the battlefield with the buyer. Yeah, you pick up the owner's policy, but you're also more competitive. If it's 275 and 275, but you're picking up the owner's policy on the title side, then the seller nets more. And so you have a better offer, but you got to make sure that you talk to the listing agent, because some listing agents out there they're not experienced enough to see that right off the bat. And so you have to walk them through it. And that's where, again, going back to one of the steps earlier in the article, talk to the listing agent, talk to them about your offer, talk to them about what they're doing, try to find out information, but more importantly, hold their hand through that part of the offer. So that way they can sell it for you to the seller.
Yep. Cool. Otis, we talked last night and said this will be a fun class. I think this was a fun class.
Yeah, I had fun with this because there's a lot of good little tidbits. This guy in here in this article, he's got Bagan's dude. He's got some good information. It's pretty interesting.
We're sharing it with the world. Yeah, I don't know. I'll find out more about Easy Offer. Yes, I'll send the list out right now, Jan. Cool.
All right.
All right.
Hey, thank you very much for having us.
Happy Friday. And really, we recognize what you're going through. It's hard, right? It's hard. And I want you to stand up and I want you to say this out loud. I'm saying to everybody I talk to, because they're all jealous. Oh, you're in real estate. You're making lots of money right now. Yeah, we're also working our asses off right now.
That's right.
And I will tell it to the last person I talked to. It's much harder now to deal with 48 showings in 2 days and, sifting through 14 offers while a seller says, oh, it's so easy to sell a house and we got to work 4 times harder. And they get it when I say it. So I encourage you to say that too. Don't do the post. I sold my listing in 2 minutes. That just makes you look like you didn't work hard. Tell the fight story, right? It's not, I caught a fish. It's, he dragged me in, he dragged me out, he rushed to the bottom, he came up, the line broke, I got another one on the hook. It's a fight story that is exciting. It's not the end result. Yeah. So when you're doing your post, when you're doing those things, talk about that. A lot of people are saying you're echoing, Otis. I don't hear you echoing at all. So I don't know.
I may have been for a moment. That said, though, one of the key things that, before we wrap this up, for our brokerage to always give, information of awareness to give our agents a competitive advantage. We are getting competitive advantages just by sharing information and creating awareness. I talk to a lot of agents out there in the field, and they don't know. They just don't know. They're out there. They don't have direction. They don't have support. They don't have coaching. They don't have leadership. They're just on their own doing their best, but they are struggling because you would think, yeah, it's a hot market. Everyone's making money. That's just not the case. No. Some people don't have the chops because they never got trained properly.
When you get 14 offers, 13 people are pissed. When you get 14 offers, 13 people are pissed.
That's right.
No, it's more than 13. It's more like
over and over. How
13, 13, 26, and 13. 39 people are pissed. You got an agent, a buyer, and 2 buyers.
Yeah.
Times 13 that are pissed. Right? It's not fun. I get it. So taking the step to prep your buyer, like we talked about today, and taking the steps to prep the seller and make it an easy transaction. This is what I want. I want to close by this much. I want a short inspection period. I want this. I want this. I want this. I want this. Put it out there. Get your seller what they want. It's called flexing your muscles, right? It's awesome. Take advantage of the market. Work with your buyers, counsel your sellers, take control. This is not a time to lower commissions. This is a time to get full fees because you're working harder. I'm gonna go to my grave saying that, because I don't care when the market's good or the market's bad. We are worth what we charge. And if you don't believe that, you probably shouldn't work here.
But intelligence is a very powerful thing at this point in the market, because you can't be an on-accident realtor. You can't just accidentally get into a deal. You have to be ready. You have to prepare yourself, and you have to have a purpose.
Well, if not, you're going to be one of the 13 that didn't win.
Yeah. Well, I mean, let's look at the Bucks real quick, and I'll be brief. The Bucks won a Super Bowl, right? Well, how long do you think they were in the film room studying each player on each opposing side? How long were they studying those offensive linemen and their tells? How long that defensive line killed the Chiefs' offensive line? There was only 4 guys that did it the whole time, right? And the reason they did that was because they studied them. They looked at their little habits, the little tell signs. And when that offensive lineman did what the tell sign was, they already knew it was coming, and they hammered him. They hammered him with intelligence. And so what we're doing here is we're gathering intelligence to be more competitive.
Well, that's what we do. Otis, you spend your time talking to agents all day. I spend my time talking. Chris does, Jeff does, Mike does, Jimmy does, Kathleen does, Deborah does. Who did I miss? Thomas does. Joe and then Diener. We collaborate. Joe Diener. Yeah. We collaborate. I mean, we've got an amazing collaboration tool in Zoom, and we've been doing Zoom way before COVID. So people are just getting into it now. We've been doing this for a long time, right? You guys are getting the collective intelligence of a really good brain trust that has a lot of experience. Look at the hot sheets. We did 26 deals turned in the other day, 19 deals turned in yesterday. That's insane. That experience is being pushed through to you, and you're getting a master's level education. It's like going to a Harvard Business Review. I mean, you're getting real life stuff pushed to you, and you guys are awesome for taking advantage of it. So thank you for that.
Yeah, we're winning some battles. We are.
Yeah. Okay, buyer brokerage is a topic for the future. I wrote that down. So, all right, it is after time. It's 9:36. We're over.
Thanks for having me.
3 to 11.
Have a great day, guys.
All right, happy Friday, guys.